Okay, so interactively typing JavaScript commands into the Firebug command line or command editor is the best way to practice. However, once you've practiced some really simple things, you can combine that idea with a JavaScript file for slightly more powerful testing and practice. So here's the idea. Now you write your JavaScript functions in a file, say myscript.js. Typically ends in .js, although that file extension is not required. Then you make an HTML file, for now in the same folder, but we'll see later that for kind of serious applications, you tend to put the JavaScript file in a subfolder under whatever folder contains the HTML file. But for now, just make a simple JavaScript file with some function definitions and a simple HTML file in the same folder, and then you'll have the HTML file load the JavaScript file. In the head section of the page, you'll put a script tag that refers to the JavaScript file that you just wrote. Then, to practice, you'll put the function definitions in the JavaScript file. But you'll load the HTML page and then bring up Firebug, and you'll put the function calls in the JavaScript console in Firebug. And every time you want to update the function definition, you go back to the JavaScript file, make a change, save the file, go back to the browser, hit the little reload button, go back to Firebug, make a function call, and see your updated definition. Okay, let's try this process. So again, I'm using the Eclipse development environment, but you can use any editor you want for your practice. So I make an HTML file as I did before, but this HTML file has one difference. It tries to load the file called myscript.js from the same folder that contains the HTML file. And so I go to that file, myscript.js, and I type in a function definition. Function square of x, return x times x, semicolon. I save that file. And then I go to the HTML file, not the JavaScript file, the HTML file. And I bring it up in a browser. Then I launch Firebug. And now in Firebug, the JavaScript file has already been loaded. So if I did things properly, I can now call square 5 and get 25. Okay, well, this is all well and good. I did everything properly, but the reason that this is useful is when you make a mistake. When you make a mistake and you have things saved in a file, it's a little bit easier to come back later and update things than when you're typing everything in interactively. So now let's say I want to make a function called double. Function double of x. And I goof, and I just say x times 2. But I never say return. So it's going to compute x times 2 inside the function, but it's not going to return it. It's not going to pass it back to the outside. That's a mistake. So I save that file. I go back to the main HTML file. I hit reload. I bring Firebug back up. I type in double of 5. And it says, oh, undefined. It's not that the function was undefined. It was that the return value was undefined because I didn't have a return value. So, oh, yeah, of course. And so now I go back here and I say, oh, I should return x times 2. Parentheses with return are optional. Some people just use spaces instead of enclosing the return value in parentheses. But either way, and I save that file. I go back to the main HTML page. I hit reload. I bring back up Firebug. I run it again. And now I get the answer that I expected. And this is also useful when you make a syntax error. So function triple of x return x times 3. Return, not return. So that's illegal code. I go back. I reload the HTML page. I go back to Firebug. I say triple of x. And it says, triple of 5. And it says, return is not defined. Oh, yeah, of course, it's return, not return. So I go back up here and I change it to return. I save that file. I go back to the HTML file. I hit reload. I bring Firebug back up. I run it again. Okay, so this idea is that I'm typing in function definitions in the file. Every time I update or add a new one, I reload the HTML file. The HTML file loads the JavaScript file. The JavaScript file contains the function definitions, but the function calls, where I actually test them out, I still do interactively in Firebug. And so this process, or some sort of combination of the process, is what I recommend in real life. Every time you're learning something new, you're learning strings, you're learning arrays, you're learning right expressions, you're learning jQuery, start off by typing stuff interactively in Firebug. After you've had a little bit of practice typing stuff directly into Firebug, then make an HTML file that loads a JavaScript file. And then start putting some function definitions, or later we'll see object definitions, or we'll see array definitions, into the JavaScript files, but make interactive calls to test out those functions, or those arrays, or those objects in the Firebug console.